So this video is going to be a bit different. There are some super motivating stories out there on YouTube right now about people quitting their jobs. They're getting these signs, they're learning these lessons, these things that are hinting towards like, hey, you have more potential than you think you know. But this isn't one of those stories. You see, quitting for me was actually really hard. Quitting for me was something that I didn't really think I would do. And was it because we had no money? No, we actually had tons of money. Was it because there weren't a lot of opportunities? No, I was super privileged, had a lot of opportunities, a lot of different directions that I can go in. But what it really was that my brain was hardwired a certain way so that I didn't think it was possible to quit. I didn't think it was possible that I had more potential, or that I could provide better for my family, or that I could go out and make a difference in the world just because of the way that I was raised and because of the way that these beliefs were indoctrinated in me. And so basically these lies that I was telling myself over the years were something that held me back. And I didn't even know they were lies. They were just so well weaved into my subconscious that I just believed them to be true. And so I wasn't self-aware that these were just beliefs. And so what I want this video to be is something that can help those people who see these motivational videos, but you kind of think, oh, I don't know if I could do that. Like, that's super cool, but I don't know if I could, or I don't see these signs, or I don't see the opportunities, or, but, and all these excuses. It's because you don't know what is actually truth and what is actually just a belief. And the only reason I learned those things is because I quit, and then I learned those lessons. So my story is a little bit different. I had to learn the lessons afterwards and say, oh, that's why, this thing didn't happen. And so I want you guys to at least be able to know and differentiate between like what's a lie, or what's the truth, or what's just belief, or what have you just been taught to believe, so that way you're self-aware, so you can be in control of the decisions you make. Now, not everybody should be going up and quitting their job, but you would need to at least know that you can, or know when you should. And so I'm hoping that these three things, these three huge lessons that I've learned after quitting my job and validating basically, I hope that there's something that can help you to realize, where you want to go and what direction you want to go in life. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that you can't let your self-worth be wrapped up in your job, or your work, or your position, or the things that you do. You can't let that basically determine everything that you do in your life. Like, what would my job think? Or, this is who I am, this is what I do, and those kinds of things. You can't let that happen. Now, it's awesome. It's really good for you to be, very motivated about your job. And it's very good for you to be very motivated about doing good work. Like, I'm not saying those things are bad. Okay. That was me. I tried to climb the ladder really quickly. I was flying places. I had huge clients. I was doing like, $500,000 in terms of managing revenue a month. And so that was me. I was the guy that was doing search engine optimization and leading big teams for big clients in Los Angeles. Like, that was my self-worth. And my parents were just so proud. Everybody was proud of me. They were like, this is what Doug was meant to do. Look at him up in the big like building with the skyscraper and the things like that, or at the top floor or whatever. And that is, I just built such a story around that with myself that I couldn't see anything else. And so many of us have this attachment to our jobs, or to our positions, or to our titles, that it prevents us from evolving, or from growing, or for seeing new opportunities. And I know that this first one might be kind of apparent to some people, like, well, yeah, you can't let your job like determine your self-worth, but are you aware that you're letting your job determine your self-worth? That's like the real big issue. And I didn't know that I was doing that until I stepped away. I thought I was just being like a good employee. I thought I was just being a hard worker. I thought I was just, living the life that people were meant to do. I was living the dream. I was kind of doing everything that I wanted to with my job. But that's a lie. Like, is that truly, you have to ask yourself, is that truly what you want to be able to do with your life? And when you ask yourself that question, you might be really scared to answer it. And so that's one of the first things that I realized, is that I was honestly just scared to ask myself, like, is this really all that I'm worth? Like, I'm accomplishing great things, but is it really all that I'm worth? And after quitting my job, after leaving that, I lost my identity. I lost my self-worth. I was really depressed. I went through really hard times in terms of like struggling in terms of what I should be doing with my life. What direction should I be going? Should I be going back to that job? Should I ask for it back? And it was honestly really disheartening, because as I started to grow out of that, as I started to try to take more action of myself, I just look back at myself and I wonder, wow, dude, like what were you doing? Why were you so depressed over leaving that thing when you got this new opportunity to go out and do things? Or now you have the ability to be in full control of what you want to do. So it took me nearly 2 years after quitting my job to realize that, and to get out of that that section of pain of my life and to be fully in control. And now I'm in control. But like I said, like if people don't see lessons before they're trying to quit their job, they would never know this. They would never realize that their entire self-worth is wrapped up in their job. It took me 2 years to do that. So something along the lines of that self-worth, or your self-worth being wrapped up within your job. The second point here that I want to be able to talk about is that you can actually be replaced at your job, basically no matter what position you're in. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're just regular worker, or you're at the bottom of the food chain, or if you're a manager, or if you're a director, or if you're at some C-level. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you can in fact be replaced, and the company will in fact continue to move along without you. So I used to think to myself, things or phrases or stuff like that, being like, what would this place do without me? Or they couldn't do that. They would need my help, or I need to, if I left, this place would just fall apart. And those are super arrogant and cocky things to be thinking, obviously. And when you start saying things like that, you start to really build this kind of like this belief that this company has a dependency on you, and it's your responsibility to never leave that role, which is again another one of those beliefs and lies that tells yourself like, hey, I can't leave this place because this place is going to fall apart. This is my calling. My calling is to help do that. And for some people, it might be. But again, this isn't to tell everyone to go quit their job. This is just for those who might not be self-aware that they're doing this. You need to be aware that you're telling yourself these kind of lies or these beliefs, and you might actually have more potential that's out there. So after working super hard for like 4 or 5 years and climbing my way up the corporate ladder and managing a bunch of people and like starting to really just develop this department and new strategy and new things that we were doing, I had this belief that, man, this place can't run without me. And then I quit, and guess what? It kept going. It just kept going like I was never gone. Yeah, there were some positions that they had to fill, or there were some roles that they had to fill, some clients that needed to be transitioned over to other people. But at the end of the day, that company's still running. And you just start to question and wonder, like, why do I have so much of my identity wrapped up in this? And why do I believe that they need me so much, when in reality they don't? There's like a billion other people that could probably do the same thing that I'm doing. Why am I spending all of my time and dedicating my entire life to doing this when I might have other things that I can do, or other potential that may need to be filled? So after quitting and seeing all this happening, like all the praise that I would get from supervisors or from C-levels, and from all the clients or my colleagues, and people saying like how good I was and all these things that I was doing, it was all kind of empty, to be honest. Like it ends up being kind of empty to a certain extent. Like, yeah, I appreciate all the thoughts and all the relationships I've built and all the friends that I made. But when somebody says like, man, I could see you running this place in 2 years, or this is what you were meant to do, or those kinds of things, like when you quit and then the place doesn't fall apart, it just kind of like invalidates all of those thoughts. Right. So I don't want you to be wondering, what would happen if I left this place to the company. You should be asking yourself, like, what would happen to me if I left? What could I accomplish if I left? What kind of potential do I have? But after those years of kind of like battling that, some sort of like, I guess, career depression in a way, or something like that, or self-worth depression, and going through and trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing with my life. Should I be doing something for myself, or just working with my wife? What should be happening? Like, where do I go from here? Once I was able to figure out where to go from here, which honestly didn't take that long, and it wasn't that hard. The beliefs were just so ingrained in my head that I just kept wondering, like, am I doing the right thing? But now that it's been years since I've quit, and I can look back on myself in those situations, I can tell myself, you're just having basically like 9 to 5 withdrawals is kind of a way to think about it. You are struggling because it's hard. Like, it's hard to quit, and it's hard to find a job, or not find a job, but it's hard to find a career path that you want to go in for yourself. It's hard to be entrepreneurial. But the truth is that it's not hard to be entrepreneurial, and it's not hard to find success. It's actually harder to quit. It's harder to leave the comfort life. It's harder to leave a cushy lifestyle. It's harder to leave a consistent paycheck. It's harder to leave the taxes that are paid for you, and the benefits, and the drinks on Fridays, and the cohorts, and like all the stuff that you do. It's hard to leave that your parents are proud of you and respect you. It's hard to leave that people look up to you, and it's hard to leave that basically like safety, that safety net. It's actually harder to quit that than it is to be able to find success on your own in doing something entrepreneurial. It's actually not that hard. There's a ton that you can do that's out there. You know, people are doing things on Etsy, or doing physical products, or doing info products, or doing something with courses and coaching, kind of like what we do, and helping people with that. And there are these people that we're working with that are finding success when they never thought they could find success. But the harder thing to do for them was to actually quit their job. And that was me. Like, it was extremely hard for me to quit my job. And I don't want you to get caught in this trap that, you know, you can't be successful, because in reality you can be successful, and it's easier to be successful than it is to quit your job. But that's just how you were trained and how you were hardwired, is that your job is the way to go. But the thing is that humans are just naturally creatures that want to survive, and that have an extremely strong will to survive. Okay, so when you're put into a situation where you need to make happen, you will. And that's just something that people don't realize. And it's like having these jobs and this 9-to-5 culture and the office culture, making it so cool, and you have all these benefits and all these things that you do, basically reduce that will. They reduce that kind of fight or flight survival mechanism that happens. And what it does is basically just making people soft. And so they are afraid to quit, and they're afraid to go out there and do those other things, because they believe that it's easier to stay at their job, and it is. It's harder to quit your job than it is to actually find success. So hopefully these points here kind of help put you guys back in control of your life, or at least make you more self-aware of what's possible to be able to do. Because like I said, there's a lot of info that's out there that's honestly like super motivating, and I get pumped up watching it too, about people learning these lessons or seeing these signs or having these epiphanies that happen to be able to quit their job. But for a majority of us, there's no epiphany, and there's no sign, there's no intervention, there's no miraculous serendipitous thing that happens that tells me I should quit my job, or the sign is perfect and everything's ready to go right now. Really what needs to happen is that you need to be the person that kickstarts the intervention, or you need to be the person that starts that movement into being entrepreneurial, if it's right for you. So hopefully this video kind of points those things out. If you have questions or comments about feelings or things that you have, or you're working at your job and you have your self-worth wrapped up in it, or anything like that, leave them in the comments below. Like, I'm super happy to talk to people about that kind of stuff, because I know my perspective on things is a little bit different than a lot of the other entrepreneurial people that are out there doing this. So as usual, you know, if you like this video, feel free to subscribe, like it, do whatever. If you don't want to, doesn't really matter to me. Just hope that you guys are getting some type of value out of all this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.